I often say New Zealand is an Instagrammer's paradise.
Let's run away to the coast, somewhere far away from home.
Neil, the volcanoes here give you an amazing activity to do. And one of the best things, of course, is to take a helicopter ride and actually fly over the volcano.
People still don't know what type of food they'll get in New Zealand.
Two main dishes, if I had to say about New Zealand, would be the lamb. Because lamb is so tender and juicy here. It's just amazing. And along with food, of course, New Zealand has some of the best wines.
I've heard that there's Hobbiton in New Zealand.
It's definitely worth going there because it's really as if you're back in the movies or you're a part of the movie.
What is the significance of the Maori culture?
The Maoris were the indigenous people of New Zealand, and before the Europeans or the whites came in here, they were the ones who called this land their home. They called it Aotearoa, which means the land of the long white cloud.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. Let me start today's episode with 3 questions. Which country is the birthplace of bungee jumping? Which country is probably one of the only countries in the world that has not one but 2 national anthems? And which country is the only country in the world that has no snakes? Well, I have a fear of snakes, so I love it that this country doesn't have snakes. The answer to all of these 3 countries is New Zealand, and that's our topic for today's episode. Now, I will agree that we have covered New Zealand before. But today's episode is a question-answer session between me and my co-host Sunila, where we dive deep into some of the questions we think the Indian travel audience definitely often asks about New Zealand. So, without wasting any more time, let's get started with this episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. Welcome to New Zealand. So Sunila, today let's do question answers because speaking about New Zealand, speaking about different cities in New Zealand, we've done that many times. We've had guests on our podcast, and the most recent thing that we did about New Zealand was in the month of July or August, where you had a guest and we did a fun episode on New Zealand. Now, when you want to do a question answer session, you have been to New Zealand a number of times. What are some unanswered questions do you think people have in their minds when it comes to New Zealand?
Neil, I think people still have a lot of questions about New Zealand in spite of all the information out there with everything, a lot of, even the New Zealand Tourism Board speaking about things in India. We have spoken so much, and there are so many sites, so many other Instagram accounts and other things that speak about New Zealand. But there are still those questions, and I think it really depends on what people look to New Zealand for, right? And I think to start off today's episode, there are a lot of questions. How do you travel? What's the best way to get there? What is the time to get there? We know things to do there, but is it really safe? Should I really indulge in that adventure activity or not? And I think to start off the episode today, let's start with something, a few years back when we had an old brochure on New Zealand, which we had made. We had listed out, and that was the theme that year for New Zealand, which were the life-changing experiences in New Zealand that you felt. Okay, and I think for me, the number one, the top life-changing experience, of course, was bungee jumping. Like standing out there, I think it was a good 20 years back when I had my first bungee, and standing on the hill, this was at Skytown, and looking down, and everything looked so pretty, but to, muster up the courage to jump, for me, it really was a life-changing experience. And I think that would be a good point to start because many people want to experience adventure but often hold themselves back because they wonder about safety, they wonder about many other things. So, which is the adventurous experience to start off, right? And as we know, you are someone who loves to have his list. On many different episodes, you've talked to us about your food list around the world, and we always ask you whenever we are going somewhere on what things to do, eat, or whatever with your list, so we can tick it off, which is a great way to start. So, how about your list of the adventurous activities in New Zealand?
So Sunila, speaking of adventure in New Zealand, the first thing that comes to our mind is Queenstown. And often people call Queenstown the adventure capital. But don't you agree that New Zealand doesn't have one but two adventure capitals? One in North Island, that is Rotorua, and one in South Island, that is Queenstown. And speaking of lists, I often like to keep my lists in the Notes app. So I'll just pull up my phone. And if I want to talk about Queenstown, you spoke about the bungee. And you did the bungee on the ledge, right? Which has the great views of the city. When I did bungee first time, it was like at the birthplace of bungee jumping in the world, which was over the Kawarau River. And you can jump with an option to also take a dip into the river. Now that bungee jump is about 83 or 86 meters or something like that. But it has 3 bungee jumping sites. Then along with that, Queenstown has a second thing, which is skydiving. Skydiving is what, 15,000 feet is what you can skydive from. 35,000 feet is where you fly from. So skydiving and bungee jumping are 2 things that everyone knows about. But what people don't know about are the other adventure activities that you can do in Queenstown. And the first one that comes to mind is jet boating. Jet boating should not be considered the same as, say, a speedboat. Jet boating was something which you only have told me was invented in New Zealand, right? And a jet boat is this super fast boat that goes across the river. In Queenstown, there is the Kawarau River and the Shotover River. And the jet boat goes in shallow water. So the depth of the water would be about this much. And the jet boat just propels itself at a crazy speed across that river. So the adrenaline rush that you get is crazy. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is, and often it happens, and I've said this on a previous episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life also, there is a chance that you have booked your skydiving experience, but it gets cancelled due to the weather. If it ever gets cancelled due to the weather, you know what you have to do. You have to go river rafting, because what is bad weather for skydiving is great weather for river rafting. So river rafting is the fourth experience that you can do.
Neil, I just want to add one more point here, is that another thing you can do for skydiving, and today there are multiple locations, and I'd just like to list that out because it's not just Queenstown that you can do skydiving. And in fact, I did my skydiving in Rotorua because, like you said, I had booked it in Queenstown, but unfortunately it got cancelled, and I didn't want to wait till my next trip to New Zealand to come in and do the skydiving. So what I did was, when I went to Rotorua after Queenstown, I just did my skydiving there, and it was equally amazing. And you can actually try and do it in different places across New Zealand. So you can do it in Queenstown, you can do it in Auckland, Abel, Tasman, Tauranga, Bay of Islands, Mount Cook,
You can
Franz
also do it in
Joseph,
Wanaka,
and
right?
Taupo.
You can do it in Wanaka. So
Yes,
I think
so there are quite a few places that you can do skydiving.
So that's number 4, okay? 5th on my list, and we did an episode about this with Sajid as well, paragliding. Paragliding in New Zealand is incredible because I often say New Zealand, and you have also noticed that, is a Instagrammer's paradise.
Yes.
You just point your phone anywhere, you get a great photo. You don't have to be a great photographer also. So paragliding and hand gliding are 2 things that you can do in Queenstown, and you can do it in multiple other places. I'm talking about Queenstown now because I want to come to Rotorua and talk about the other things that you can do. Then there is something which is called heliskiing or snowboarding. So the helicopter takes you to a place, and from there you can ski down the mountain. And these are called the Southern Alps in New Zealand. And when you're in Queenstown, the closest to glaciers are Franz Joseph Glacier and Fox Glacier, right? So you can do heliskiing and heli snowboarding, not on these glaciers, but on the mountains, which are the Southern Alps. Then you can also do mountain biking. Now, often people think that mountain biking is only for pros. People think that they watch all of these mountain biking videos on the GoPro channel on YouTube and, I'll never be able to do that. But one of the best things about New Zealand is that whether you're doing it in Rotorua or in Queenstown, mountain biking paths are for different difficulty levels, different levels of experience. And you and I will be beginners, right? Like entry level mountain bikers. We will have a path which we can just take our mountain bike on, which will be quite safe. So safety is one of the best things about the adventure activities in New Zealand. Now, I'll get to Rotorua, but do you think I missed out anything when it comes to Queenstown?
There's the canyon swing, Neil, that you can add,
Yes.
which is amazing. It looks crazy. And if you've seen the videos, there are some absolutely crazy videos. There are people who even, I think I saw someone strapped onto a chair and doing the canyon swing, but there are so many ways of doing the canyon swing. It's amazing.
You bring up a good point. whether you're doing bungee jumping or this canyoning that you're talking about, one good thing to get a more immersive experience is to really become friendly with the people who are managing it.
Right.
You can tell the people that, how do people generally do this canyon swing, right? And then you can tell them, I want to do it something differently. Then
Customize it
they
to what you want,
customize it,
yeah.
and they're like, oh, if you want a different experience, why don't you jump like sitting on a chair?
Yeah.
Why don't you jump sideways? Why don't you jump this way without a t-shirt? Now let's come to Rotorua. And one of the unique things that you can do in Rotorua is Zorbing. Now Zorbing, have you done Zorbing?
Long back.
How was that
Very long
experience?
back. It's insane because you're in this big inflated rubber tube and there's water inside as well. They take you right up on top of a mountain and then they just push you down and you come like those nursery rhymes, you come tumbling down the mountain and it's really crazy.
But there are different paths, right?
There are different paths. You can go faster, slower. Again, like you said, you can choose which way you want
But
to
you're
be.
just tumbling down, upside down and all of that. So is it for the faint-hearted or...
It's quite easy, but I would say it's deceptive. It looks easier than it is. Like it looks really simple because you have to do nothing. You don't have to make a choice or you have to do nothing. You just have to go and stand inside this big ball that is there, and then it's filled with water. And I think it's a lot of fun to watch it more than being inside that, So if someone's doing Zorbing, please make sure you go and watch it and push your friends to go and do it because it's hilarious the way you keep tumbling up and down, and you really need nothing. You just need to have some wetsuits or something or shorts or something and just go ahead and enjoy. And then you come out and dry
And it's good to do
off.
with friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's Zorbing. Of course, there's mountain biking that I spoke of. There's also Luge, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the first time many of us would have experienced the Luge ride would have been in Singapore at Sentosa, right? But there is the cable way in Rotorua, and you can come down on the Luge is... another fun adventure experience. It's more like go-karting where you're holding
And it's easy
onto-
for all ages. So it's not something you have to worry about. Again, there are different tracks. So you want to take the fastest track or you want to enjoy this, view a little bit more. You can choose what you want to do.
Or you can do it both times where you take the slower track and the faster track.
And you can't stop. And I think the Luge has this tagline, at least it used to have, that once is never enough. And that is true. You cannot stop at one Luge, right?
Yeah, because it's a fun experience. Like you're just going down and it's different. Something that is different in Rotorua as compared to Queenstown is also the river rafting.
Yes.
Now, in Queenstown, you do it on the Shotover or the Kawarau river. Here, you do it on a river which is known as the Kaituna. And the Kaituna river is unique. And let me look at my phone because I want to get this right. It is the world's highest commercially rafted waterfall. The 7-meter Tutea Falls that it's called. It's one of the most featured river rafting experience in videos on YouTube. So if you watch GoPro videos and there is a river raft coming down a nice deep waterfall with people like commoners like you and me, it is probably from here. So this is something that you should definitely do. So that's why river rafting in both places is different. So you could do it in both places. Now, speaking of another experience you can do in Rotorua, I remember you told me that Rotorua or New Zealand overall is on the tectonic plates which are known as the Pacific Ring of Fire, which means it has a lot of active volcanoes. And you can do adventure activities associated with these. So what was one of the things that you...
Neil, the volcanoes here give you an amazing activity to do. And, one of the best things, of course, is to take a helicopter ride and actually fly over the volcano. I mean, imagine you're in the flight and you see the white smoke coming out. And this is something you can do in the North Island. What you can also do is something known as the Tongariro Alpine Crossing. And this is considered the best day walk in New Zealand. And you can actually walk on an active crater when you're here. So I think it can't get more exciting than this, right? Like
I think
really on a
finding
volcano.
the best walk in New Zealand is a task in itself.
That's true.
Because
That's true.
you can just walk anywhere.
Right.
I think when I went camper vanning in New Zealand a few years ago, we would just stop by the road and there are just walks anywhere, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Neil, another thing I would suggest, and this is something pretty new, it's quite exciting. You mentioned the Ring of Fire, and of course with all the volcanoes and with the geothermal activity here, New Zealand being a young country, there you can enjoy a lot of hot pools. So wherever you go, you can soak yourself in a nice hot pool. In fact, in the North Island, There are some beaches where you can go in and you can dig your own hot pool because the sand itself is warm. So
Yeah.
the water's warm. So take something, go in there, dig your own hot pool and enjoy that. And I think another really cool way to see it is near Mount Taravera. And what you do is you take a flight seeing, like a flight, a helicopter ride, or like a seaplane, and you take this flight. You go over the mountain. You enjoy a beautiful scenic flight, and then it lands in a place where you can enjoy hot pools. And this place is accessible only by flight. You can't come here. So imagine you're like secluded. There's no one else there. So it's like a mixture of a flight seeing and a hot pool that you can
flight
enjoy
seeing.
there.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
word existed.
Yeah,
But
so-
well, you've told us about it now.
Yeah.
Now, if we have so many things, we have of course graduated from just wanting to tick New Zealand off a bucket list to rather what is my bucket list when I'm in New Zealand, right? But let me ask you a very simple question. Of course, everyone talks about New Zealand being a year-round destination. But what are some of the best times to visit New Zealand? And don't say, oh, New Zealand is like pure saal mein jao. But when should you
But
go
that
and
is
what?
true.
Yeah, but when should you go and what should you expect?
Okay, I think I'm going to answer this question in a different way and say which are my favorite times to go
I think
there.
that's a good way, yeah.
Because you really can go to New Zealand any time of the year. And then like you said, you choose what to do depending on when you are there in New Zealand or when you can go. We've said this before, but I'll just repeat it, that New Zealand being in the southern hemisphere sees seasons opposite to us.
Yes.
So when it is summer here, it's winter there, and so forth, so on and so forth. So now, to say from September onwards is the spring season out there, and that is the best time if you love nature. If you love gardens, and there are different things to do and see, you should be out there because the cherry blossoms will blossom. You will see that
Cherry
mainly
blossoms in New Zealand.
in New Zealand, in Christchurch. So that's something you don't want to miss. Go to the botanical gardens there. Or you can go to Mata Mata in North Island and go to where the Hobbiton set is. And that's again stunning. And close to that is again Hamilton Gardens. So you can have this beautiful tour of New Zealand. And you know the best part, why I like going in spring is that the summer has not yet started. The crowds are less. So you can really enjoy. Of course, crowds in New Zealand is not really a problem, but I'm talking of the tourist. The tourist crowd is less and you have the place more to yourself.
Just you and the sheep.
Yes, just you and the sheep. Like they say, there are more sheep in New Zealand than people, right? And Mark spoke about it on our episode as well. So I think the experience is so much better. And for everyone who's looking to reconnect with nature, spring would be a great time to go
So
there.
spring is when?
From September, October, November would be
Yeah.
spring. From December, it's the summer season. And of course, the most popular time to be in New Zealand because everything's blooming, everything's beautiful. People are out walking and all of that. So, of course, if you have to go there, book really early because it is the most popular season from all around the world. So,
Yeah.
things are going to get full pretty soon in terms of the hotels, flights, everything. So, book really early if you want to go in summer. That brings me to my next favorite season. So I would say probably or my most favorite season is autumn. And the good part is it
So
kind
you said
of...
spring is your favorite season, summer
I
is
keep
your
saying
second
everything's my
favorite,
second
and then
favorite.
autumn's your most favorite
I'm
season.
going to, change the order around here. Neil, I can't help it. Everything in New Zealand is my favorite, but let me change the order a little bit. I would put autumn as my number one season, spring second, summer third, and winter fourth, I guess.
What's left?
I might change it next year. I might change it by next year when I actually go to New Zealand. But autumn, because the colors are fantastic. And two places I would say, there are many places in New Zealand where you can see this, but two are my absolute favorite. One is Arrowtown and second is Wanaka. And
Okay.
Arrowtown was this small little cute little place which was I think established in the around 1862, 1863 when they actually discovered gold in the river. And all these people came in for the gold rush there. And actually when you go back there today, it's like going back in time. And typically our holidays start during April, like the school
Yeah,
vacations.
correct.
So April, May is a fantastic time to go and see the colors. So anyone who's wanting to go and see autumn colors
So
should go
Arrowtown
there.
is about like an hour from Queenstown, right?
Less than that,
Yeah.
even like 20-25 minutes with a drive. And I remember when I was in Queenstown, it's like I would keep driving out there, go there, see the little place, walk through there, see the postal office, see how things are still kept so lovingly, preserved even today, like it was back then. So that is one place. And the second is about an hour away from Queenstown, which is Lake Wanaka, one of the most beautiful places on earth, I think. I think anything and everything in Wanaka, from the luxury lodges to the puzzling world, there is something for everyone.
The
from
puzzling
kids.
world in Wanaka is
Yeah.
not for just kids. Like I loved it. Like it was amazing. Yeah.
Exactly. So families, people on honeymoon, they love Wanaka. So if you're going in April and May, then you would get to see all these golden colors of the autumn. So again, that is really nice. And I think what is slowly becoming popular is the season that's now just gone by is the winter, which
Yeah.
is your July and August mainly. Because like you mentioned, adventure, New Zealand is a very active country in that sense. So if you want to learn skiing, if you want to do snowboarding, you want to do anything related to the snow and ski, then the best time to be there is winter, because then you can really enjoy all of that. And another experience, maybe you're not that active, but you just want to enjoy. Then there's something called the dark skies. And dark skies today, dark sky gazing or dark sky observatories are becoming more and more popular, because I think we all want to connect back to nature. And New Zealand has, they say that there are some 20 to 22 official dark sky reserves in the world, and New Zealand has 2 of them.
Ah.
So, you already know that how special it is. And again, here, I would say if you're on honeymoon and you want to try and do something different, then in the central part of New Zealand, you have these dark skies where you can actually have a hot pool. So you go there in the night, you relax in the hot pool, and then
just
you're
stargaze.
So you can see the Milky Way. If you're lucky, you can see other things. Again, here, like every other natural phenomenon, I would say at least account for 2 days. In case the weather's cloudy on one, you can always go back on the other. So,
Speaking of cloudy weather, it reminds me of this one instance. The first time I went to New Zealand, flew into Auckland, okay? We stayed in Auckland for 3 nights. And then next day, we were supposed to go to Queenstown. I was super excited for Queenstown because I'd read so much, never been and all of that. And I go down for breakfast and I'm like, guys, we are going to Queenstown. And this was a work trip, right? And the Kiwi with us is like, shayad pahunchenge ya shayad nahi pahunchenge. I'm like, what do you mean?
Wow.
Like, a flight is there, Auckland to Queenstown.
Yeah.
Now, here I want to bring this travel tip, right? And the Kiwi was like, Queenstown is in a valley. And the flight path is often cloudy.
yeah.
And planes just get cancelled. So, being a specialist about New Zealand, right? I know that you advocate self-drives a lot. So, would you say that if you're going to Queenstown, don't fly there, but rather do a full drive? Would you agree?
I would agree 100%. And I have experienced this myself, and it kind of, reinforced my thoughts that it's nice to fly into Queenstown. If you want to do it, but always have a backup plan. Or plan it right and go to Christchurch first,
Yeah.
and then start driving. And the drives in New Zealand are so beautiful. Why would you not want to drive? Like I was in Queenstown, I was supposed to fly out and come to Auckland, but the flights, again, same thing. The weather was bad. The flights got cancelled. And we actually ended up driving from Queenstown to Christchurch and then taking the flight from there to
That's a
Auckland.
beautiful drive.
It's a very beautiful drive. There is Lake Tekapo and Lake Pukaki on the way. You can stop by there. The color of the water is just stunning. The road itself is so beautiful that you just want to keep driving. So the only thing you have to remember is to be within the speed limits, and then that's it. Because the
because
roads are
speed limit fines are $150,
Yes.
$200.
Yeah.
So if you do anything wrong in New Zealand, you have a fine. But let's keep that aside. Now, let's come to another thing. I've heard that there's Hobbiton in New Zealand, right? Now, what is the Hobbiton experience like? Because there are many Lord of the Rings fans in India, and everyone's heard of Hobbiton being there. But is it really worth it? Is it worth going there?
It's definitely worth going there because it's really as if you're back in the movies or you're a part of the movie. You actually see these everything that's little. So the little homes, and it's the entire area is so beautiful. So you have these little round entrances and the tables and the chairs, and you can do a Hobbiton tour and get to know more about it. And also, Neil, in the movie, they keep referring to Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So Middle Earth is nothing but Queenstown. So there are some tours that go off from Queenstown. So one is, of course, this was a set that was made, and it was so pretty that they decided, let's just leave it, let's not take it off, which is Hobbiton. And the second part was the actual locales, the actual stunning landscapes of New Zealand that come to life in all these movies. And Middle Earth is nothing but, so there are tours that you can take from Queenstown and go and experience Middle Earth and other places as well.
And would that be like similar to what you'll go and see in Milford Sound or Doubtful Sound, or that will be something different?
No, so those Milford Sound and Doubtful Sound are like your fjords.
Okay.
And they were actually, it's wrong to even call them a sound, but these are nothing but fjords. And you can do cruises here. Middle Earth is more of the mountains. So when you go in and you can see the Remarkables, which are the mountains there, that is the area that is known as Middle Earth. And since you brought up sound, I think one of the best ways to also experience the sounds is at night. So
the sounds as in Milford Sound
Milford Sound and Doubtful Sound, because very often people have this question. When we started discussing, we said people still have a lot of questions. So I think regarding Milford and Doubtful, the first question that comes to mind is, how do I choose? Which one do I choose? Both are equally stunning. I would say if you have time, of course, do both. If not, start off with Milford Sound, simply because we've heard so much about it that you go to Doubtful and you keep thinking, oh, maybe I should have done Milford. So start off with Milford, and then if you have time, definitely do Doubtful Sound. How do I see it? Do I do it as a day trip, or what is the best way to do it? Again, I would say the day trips are the best, and these coaches that take you to Milford Sound are specially made. So they are beautiful coaches. The drive is nice, and you get there. You don't have to do anything. I would say avoid self-drive on these roads.
Oh, really?
This is something that everyone says, and I would agree. I've been on that road, and I actually met a couple who had landed up with an accident driving on this road. They were a honeymoon couple, and they had their hand in a plaster. But when we asked them what happened, and they said they didn't realize the bends, and they were driving a little too fast because there was no one on the road. So avoid driving to Milford Sound. It's easier to get there by a coach. You can actually take a helicopter ride there as well. Okay. So if you want to take it up a notch, then add in a helicopter ride one way. Go there by coach, come back by helicopter back to Queenstown. That's another way to do it. Third thing would be to stay at Tiano. And you can actually stay overnight in Tiano and cut your journey. So if you're doing a whole round trip, driving yourself, then stay there one night, go to Milford, and then come back to Queenstown. So these are like different ways to do it. And then you can also stay on board the cruise for one night in Queenstown. And then in the morning, when there's no one out there, you can go kayaking in the waters. So that's something stunning. You may see dolphins.
So
you'll see
kayaking
other
is
things.
also added to
Yes.
one more
Yes,
adventure,
kayaking is
one
also
more
another
adventure
thing.
activity.
And Neil, talking of kayaking and adventure, it's my dream, and I hope I do it next year, is to go to Abel, Tasman and do it, because that national park is a little out of bounds, and it's really stunning to do it.
When you say out
there.
of bounds, what do you mean?
Because you can't really, there aren't too many hotels or resorts to stay, so you have to stay a little away. There's also a trail or a hike that you can do there, the Abel Tasman Trail. So it's a little secluded, I would say, from the rest of New Zealand. Another stunning place would be Paihia, or the Bay of Islands, right up in the north at the very northern tip of New Zealand, and that's another stunning place to go kayaking. There are many, of course, like everything else in New Zealand, but at least these one or two are some things that if you're looking for something different, you should go to Paihia or go to Abel Tasman or kayak in the Milford Sound.
So, on the list of questions that the research team had given me, one question kept coming that people still don't know what type of food they'll get in New Zealand. Now, I'm not saying will I get Indian food in New Zealand. What is the type of food that you'll get in New Zealand? Now, my simple answer to this is you'll get the freshest ingredients, right? But what's your take on this?
So Indian food really is available everywhere, and we know that. But I would say the two main dishes, if I had to say about New Zealand, would be the lamb, because
Okay.
the lamb is so tender and juicy here. It's just amazing. And you can see that the nature is amazing. The lawns, the green lawns and the everywhere are so beautiful that you do get good lamb in that way. You also have amazing seafood out here. So crayfish and all kinds of seafood. It's so fresh.
Yeah.
So again and again, you'll hear people say that the food is so fresh and it tasted so good. The other thing you can try out here, especially when you're in the North Island, is the hangi, which is the Maori cuisine,
Okay.
and which is cooked using the hot thermal waters. And if you go into one of the places out there, you can definitely taste it. So it's nice to understand how the Maoris would cook their food and how what they would do. Other things that you can pick up here is the honey. It's really nice. It's
Okay.
again organic, and different types of honey is what you can even buy to bring it back home. Lavender and things made out of lavender again are something, lavender is also used in food products. So again, that is something that you can try there. The kiwi fruit that we know,
Yep.
that is also something you can find out here. And along with food, of course, New Zealand has some of the best wines. So Central Otago, Pinot Noir and the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc
Yep.
are two of the most famous wines all across the world. So definitely indulge in some wine tasting, choose your pick and then bring it back home.
You made a quick reference to the Maori culture. Now, what is the significance of the Maori culture? I guess one thing I've often noticed is before rugby games or before basketball games, they have the world famous haka,
Haka,
right?
yeah.
Which is done to pump up your own team and also to get into the minds of the opponent. But what is the significance of this Maori culture to New Zealand?
Neil, Maoris were the indigenous people of New Zealand, and before the Europeans or the whites came in here, they were the ones who called this land their home. They called it Aotearoa, which means the land of the long white cloud. And Maori culture is quite welcoming in that sense, but if they have an opponent, of course they can really scare you as well with their haka. One thing I experienced when you get in there, and to really experience the Maori culture, you should spend a few days in the North Island, because here is where you'll see it much more than the
Okay.
South Island. And when they greet you by not by a shake hand, not by a namaste, but they actually come close to you and they rub their nose against yours. And this is called the hongi, which means
Oh, wow,
sharing
this
the
is-
breath
that's
of
very
life.
unique, yeah.
Yeah, so they come in and they'll press their forehead and their nose against yours. And the whole concept is that you share the breath of life. So sharing the breath of life with someone means that they are welcoming you into their own, into their community, and then giving you the respect. So that's kind of quite unique. And you also have these little tours where you can go to a Maori home, you can meet people, you can try and see how they live together as a family and all of that. So that's something you can do. You can go to Paihia in the Bay of Islands, again, like I mentioned, at the very north. And the Waitangi Treaty grounds are here. So this is where the pact was signed between the whites and the Maoris to live a peaceful life. So that is something you can see. In Wellington, you have the National Museum, Te Papa, which also houses a lot of Maori, it's quite rich in Maori culture in that sense. So again, that's somewhere that you can feel and experience the Maori culture. And of course, Rotorua, like you have Te Puia, you have Whakarewarewa. So these are places where you can see how they live, how they cook, the haka, and they will invite you to be a part of it. So,
Yeah, I think
definitely
that's more
volunteer
fun,
and go and have fun.
experiencing
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
That's one way of putting it. Like, if you really want to understand a particular country's culture, and New Zealand has a lot of this
Yeah.
Maori culture, it's always good to become a part of it or try and become a part of it. And every time our partners from New Zealand have come to the Veena World corporate office and come to the theatre, I'm sure I remember a haka was performed in
Yes.
our like learning center or learning theatre, right? So I've often seen that they are very welcoming. So my last question today is, what are the people of New Zealand like? I know they say a lot of the phrase sweet as, like sweet as, like how's the
Yes.
coffee? Sweet as.
Yeah.
So how are the people of New Zealand?
If I had to put it in one word, Neil, I would say easygoing. And I think that really describes them. For me, they are so easygoing, so easy to work with as well. Very friendly, very welcoming, and as the Maoris say, manakitanga, which means hospitality. And you see it everywhere in New Zealand. Wherever you go, you will see the warm, friendly vibes. So, like many other places nowadays, unfortunately, you go and you say, don't talk to strangers, don't talk or don't ask. In New Zealand, go ahead, talk to people.
Probably one of the
speak to
safest
people.
countries in the world at this
Safest
point.
and friendliest countries in the world. So definitely go in and speak to the locals, because they will speak so much more and they will show you the real New Zealand. And in
Yeah.
fact, there are ways to do this. So one of the ways is if you go and have a farm stay. So you can actually go and book, and we can do that for people. We can book them a farm stay where they actually go and stay with a farmer, and the farmer takes them around. He shows them his farm. They cook the meal for you. They have a meal with you, and they share stories, and you actually see how life there is. So the locals are really friendly, really fun, and very easy to talk.
I guess on that note, let's end this episode. I'm sure we've answered many questions, but listeners, if you have more questions, you can put them in the comments if you're watching it on YouTube. You can email us. Sunila's email ID is sunila@veenaworld.com. Mine is neil@veenaworld.com. Your feedback means a lot to us. So along with those questions, send your feedback as well. And we'll come back to you with another fun episode next week. Until then, keep celebrating life and go enjoy New Zealand to the fullest, because I'm sure Sunila and I have given you a massive bucket list for New Zealand where one trip is not enough. Or like Sunila said, she has 4 favorite seasons to visit New Zealand. Visit it every season. Thank you very much and have a good one. Bye-bye.